Hey, this is Helen Paradise from SoCal, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan. So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate 54 wieners.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole other type of movie.
Wow. Yeah, really. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
We have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men.
That's right, top men coming up. Paul Huff. Top men coming up. That's right. It's a Barbecue Central radio show, second hour, affectionately known as the After Dark segment. Happy to have you aboard on a Tuesday. Hello. Hi. 877-448-0433 is the number to call. Greg at the bbqcentralshow.com. Fred Bernardo joining me here in just 2 minutes from now. Lots to talk about with Fred. And then right around 25 past the hour, or 20 or whatever. Oh, you son of a gun. Knew that was going to happen. Always got to remember, you got to take it off that manual. Otherwise, it's all that. And then you have Mike Wozniak from QI. We're going to be talking some competition barbecue with him. So fully packed second hour as well. So hopefully you are all locked and loaded in for what promises to be another jam-packed After Dark segment. So we'll head back over to the hotline and find longtime sponsor and, more importantly than any of that, friend of the show, Fred Bernardo joining me. Fred, how are you?
Pretty good, Greg. How about yourself?
Fred, rumor has it you were actually caught up in the Harry Carey 4-segment free-for-all segment. How'd that work out for you?
Well, that was pretty interesting. I actually was a little surprised, but, it was a little mentally challenging.
Well, he's, he kind of prides himself on the questions that you think might be easy, but he's known that over time those tend to trip some people up.
Right. They were kind of tricky, I must admit. I got a little caught up on a couple of those.
All right. So Fred Bernardo joining us. Of course, he is the proprietor of Fred's Music and BBQ.com, the online portion. And, of course, he has the brick-and-mortar place in probably what is now tropical Shillington, Pennsylvania, if it's anything like here in Cleveland, Ohio. And we like to have him on.
It's quite balmy here today.
Balmy indeed, I would imagine. So it's probably actually not too bad right there. Low 30s maybe? Ice and snow and all that good stuff. Fred, we got some new stuff that's coming in. You there, buddy? Oh,
Ice slick on everything, so it's okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Could be worse.
So we like to have Fred on and talk about what's hot kind of in the retail world, because you obviously have your finger on the pulse of what's happening, at least shooting out of your store, whether it be there in Shillington or online, and then you have some new stuff that you're bringing in too. So as you kind of look back over 2010, Fred, what seemed to be like the big sellers, things that maybe you didn't think would do as well when you brought them in, but kind of shot out there once you did?
Well, we sell a lot of things for ceramic cookers, so there's a lot of products that I've dug out of the woodwork that work real good on ceramic cookers. We had quite a good success with some of those. And there's been a few new pellet grills in the low end, sort of, I guess you'd say the low end of the market. A few new brands like Green Mountain and things that we did quite well with. And then, of course, we sell, we don't just sell barbecue gear. We sell pizza making and baking supplies and things. And we had a big surge of wood-fired ovens. And, there's a lot of pizza makers out there, too. A lot of barbecuers like to make pizza, I discovered.
I was going to say, is that one of those things that dovetails from one subculture to the next? The barbecue guy might also like to do the pizza, and it probably has to do with the fact that you're building fire, I would imagine.
I think, and one thing nice, the big green egg, you can get one heck of a fire going in that thing, and really hot fire makes really good pizza. So as long as you learn how to sort of control the baking stone and the temperatures inside, you can let that thing go really wild. We call it nuclear, leaving it wide open and it goes nuclear, and man, it makes one heck of a pizza. It's about the closest thing I think you could do to a wood-fired oven. Without going through the expense and the hassle of getting a wood-fired oven. So that's kind of how it dovetailed in for us.
All right, so let's kind of talk about that here just for a second. So if we're on that topic, for somebody that has a big green egg and they have a pizza stone, you mentioned as they kind of master doing it, they can make really good pizza. What are some of the most important things that people need to take into account as they're learning to make their pizza on that stone and temperature controlling?
Okay, good. I think I'm the man to answer that question. Well, you have to set the inside of the egg up correctly, the plate setter and an airspace under your baking stone. If you go onto our website and click on recipes and cooking, there's a section there that says common plate setter setups, and show you a picture of how to best set up your egg. I think after all the experimenting I've done and everybody else has done, we've come up with what is the best way to do that. And you can see pictures there and follow that. And then, of course, once you get into getting your pizzas made on your egg at the right temperatures, you can, start experimenting with different kinds of dough and different kinds of toppings and things. We're trying to get pretty much a Neapolitan pizza, a classic Neapolitan pizza. And the official spec for that is 905 degrees in a wood-fired oven, and it's to bake in under 90 seconds. So you can do that in a big green egg. It gets a little tricky because the fire's under the stone. The stone sometimes will get superheated, but you can do it. I have plenty of videos on there that'll show you how to do it right on the website.
So I'd imagine in like a 90-second time frame, this is going to be a very thin crust pizza.
Well, it's kind of thin, sort of under where you'd see maybe the sauce, but we strive for a nice, big, puffy, charred cornicione, which is the edge, the crust around the edge. You want it nice and puffy and blistered and charred on the top. A pizzaiola that's working at a wood-fired oven, at the very last seconds, you'll see him raise, they call it doming. He'll raise the pizza up into the dome just for a few seconds so that when he pulls it out, it's charred and smoking on the top. And that's what you're striving for. It's a little harder to get in a big green egg to really make it perfect, but if the planets are aligned properly, you can get it pretty darn good.
Now, kind of in keeping with the big green egg, since that is kind of a major product line that you guys are, your eggheads over there, there seem to be some improvements that were going to be made to the big green egg. Obviously, something that's been well respected, time tested for sure. What are some of the improvements that you're seeing, and is it for the better, or is it not really going to make that much of a difference?
Well, one of the things that's happened in the last year or so, we came out with a Nomex gasket for the big green egg, and that's a gasket that's flame. I guess you'd have to say flame-proof. It's the same thickness as the original felt gasket, and the felt gasket in the big green egg is just weather stripping felt. It's F26 wool felt, and it burns it. As soon as a flame hits it, it burns around the perimeter of the egg. It just burns off. And now we're using Nomex, which is the factory spec. And the Nomex has an official burn temperature of 700 degrees and lasts a whole lot longer. So that's a huge improvement. They've made improvements to the product, too. They've raised the dome, the center of the dome on the XL, which was a big request. They've also made some improvements to the inside of the product that makes it more reliable. And then this year they're upgrading the thermometer and a few other things. I'm waiting to see some of these things come through for 2011.
The gasket seems to be something that recurs as I'm talking to people that have them just here locally in Cleveland, and they seem to burn quite a bit. Do you think they'll ever come out with something more like oven grade, that it might be in the 1,1200 degrees?
Well, I don't really know. I know I spoke to the Rutland people, and they don't even want anybody talking about. They tell people do not use their gaskets. A lot of these gaskets that people are using are fibrous material, and you have a system here where the gasket is over top of the food, and any of those little fibers drop off onto the food. It's not really a happy thing. So I don't recommend any of those gaskets. Those factories don't recommend any of those gaskets, and maybe they'll come up with something else. But this Nomex thing is pretty happening, and we've sold thousands of them, and the if as long as you glue it on properly, and we have videos showing you, I've discovered a few things. You have to pre-shrink it, and I think I've educated the masses there pretty good. And as long as you get it on right, and then the next thing is the burn temp is 700. So, we do this pizza thing at Nuclear, 900, 1,000. But after I went to Tony Gemignani's school, this past January, he's making wonderful pizzas at 600 degrees, 650 degrees, and I've just decided to shoot my pizzas now at 650 to 700 and not burn the Nomex gaskets off. So it's been working real good.
And you said you do show a lot of videos. Any new videos that you're coming out with? Obviously, you're very comfortable behind the camera, and you do a lot of great videos, and it is a service to not only the grilling but the barbecue community as well.
Yeah, well, I posted a couple the other day. One was using a pellet grill, and one was using the ceramic cooker, featuring our new sauce. I'm bringing my sauce to market. I should have the production ramped up within about a month, and we're selling stuff that we've been making and bottling ourselves at the moment. But we have the Smoking Guitar Player's secret sauce, a sweet and tangy barbecue sauce. So I did 2 the other day, and they are posted on my website. And they're also you can just find them on YouTube. Probably if you search for Smoking Guitar Player, one word. And one of them is just some country ribs, and another one is just some drumsticks, but using the sauce, just basic stuff, Put the rub on my sauce. The spice block in my sauce is my rub. So, we're looking for a consistent flavor profile. So when you use the rub, the Smoking Guitar Player's original rub, and then at the end you sauce your meat, you're actually using the exact same flavor profile. So that's the secret of the sauce. We put 2 up just recently.
What other flavor notes does the sauce have? Is it more of a Carolina thing? Is it kind of a mix between Carolina and KC, or where are we at?
Well, if I can be honest with you, I kind of wanted Blues Hog, but without that, Blues Hog has a particularly pungent sort of different flavor. I'm still not sure what it is, but I think it's vanilla in there. But at any rate, Blues Hog, one of the most popular.
Yeah.
I really like that stuff, but it has this flavor thing in there that I really didn't like. So I kind of wanted a sweet, sticky, sweet, tangy, pungent, red-based, tomato-based sauce. But I again, the flavor profile, the whole entire spice block is the rub in there. So we love the rub, the original rub, and we use it on everything. And I'm working on that consistent flavor profile through the entire cook. So for instance, on ribs you use the rub, and when you get to the saucing part, you're basically putting on neutral sauce with the rub in it. So I think we've had plenty of guinea pigs. We have a lot of customers in and out of the store. Everybody seems to like it, so we'll see if they're just BSing me or if they really like it. But I'm quite happy with it. I'm very happy with it.
All right. Well, you can certainly get some independent taste testing done here.
Quantities pretty soon.
Yeah, that's right. I'll be happy to buy some more rub and some of this sauce and test it out myself and report back. I'm going to let's see. Let me approve this, and I'm going to take this question from a listener. His name is Paul Huff, and he is, we're kind of backing up here to the Big Green Egg, but he said that he knows you carry both the Primo Oval XL and the
tangy barbecue sauce.
A sweet and tangy barbecue sauce. All right. He said that he knows you carry both the Primo Oval XL and a Big Green Egg XL. What would be a downside to a Primo, if any?
Greg, I must admit I missed the first part of what you were asking me there. Something happened on my end.
Oh, that's all right.
I came in on the Primo, the word Primo.
Gotcha. I'm getting a question in from a listener, Paul Huff, asking that he said he knows you carry both the Primo Oval XL and the Big Green Egg XL. What would be a downside to the Primo, if any?
I don't know if it really has a downside. I think probably the biggest upside to a Big Green Egg is, there's so many of them around, and, you're absolutely, I think you're pretty sure that company's always going to be there. There are people that say the round cooker cooks more consistently. I may even be one of those people. I'm not really sure, but the XL Big Green Egg with the raised center of the dome really kind of fixed some of the problems. The Primo, it seems like I have one of those in my backyard right now. It seems like it takes longer to get that going. I mean, it's really massive, but a lot of nice features with it. Great cooker. Have had a little trouble with top bands coming loose and the tops falling out. You got to make sure you either get those reinforcements. There's a guy who makes little reinforcements, clips that hold the top in. because that top band on the Primo seems to stretch a lot more than the Big Green Egg when you get it really hot. But both great cookers.
Fred Bernardo of Fred's Music and BBQ joining us, also at a .com to that, and you can find his online presence. Fred, some of the new stuff that we were kind of corresponding back and forth, jerky stuff and sausage making, something that you've another new hobby for you or something you've always been into?
Well, I've been into eating the stuff, that's for sure, and it's just another sort of we sort of have a 3-phase store right now. We have the barbecue stuff, barbecue and grilling. We have the baking, pizza making, and wood-fired oven section, and then we have the charcuterie section, which is sausage making, jerky making, that type of thing. I should mention in with the baking thing, we also sell pasta makers and things like that. This is stuff for the home hobbyist chef. I mean, we're not as much of a hardcore like competition barbecue place,
right?
As we are, we're a little more like home chef oriented. So if you like to cook and you want to experiment, you want to learn sausage making, we have all the best books. We have all the stuff you need to do it. Same thing with pizza, pasta making, blah blah blah, and same thing with the barbecue stuff. So we sort of have a three thing going there. 3-phase.
And one of the other things, as far as the pizzas, the pizza makers are concerned, is that is it the Forno or the Fornon Bravo wood-fired ovens?
Yeah, the Forno Bravo wood-fired ovens are just excellent things. I actually have a video. I've been selling them for 2 years. I actually have a video on the website. I visited the factory, which, it isn't automated. They kind of make these things by hand, but they're made in Monterey Peninsula in California. Great ovens. They put a lot of work into them on the front end. They get hot fast. They hold their temp. They really bake quite well. Some of the best bakers in the world use them. And if you want the ultimate in a backyard cooking type toy other than a big barbecue grill, certainly a Forno Bravo oven is a perfect thing. We sell them to people for inside fancy kitchens and most people for outdoor use. They're not cheap and they're heavy, but if you want to make pizza and bake bread and you can cook turkeys in there and the whole bit. So we sell those also.
Is it something that you're going to buy and you're also going to kind of be an arm and a leg in as far as getting it up and going, or once it shows up, it's pretty easy to put together?
Well, they sell pre-assembled ones, which still have the issue of you got to figure out some way of getting them to your site. You'll have a 1,200-pound thing that you've got to get to a backyard, or it's they don't fit through doorways. I mean, this is. You use a lot of contractors. We ship these things into contractors, to hardscapers. And they also, so you can buy them assembled, fully assembled, or most people buy them in. It's like a kit. I call it an engine. It's the engine of the thing. It's 3 or 4 cast pieces that one person can carry. You put them in place and you put some mortar on them. They supply everything you need, and you do the finish work. Okay, so you prepare your site, but you're buying their engine, and it's about half the price. And to actually build a brick oven, it'd take you months and months and months. And This job you can do in a couple of weeks pretty easy.
Wow.
And you'll wind up with a better oven. I mean, they're very, very good ovens.
All right, final question here before I let you go, Fred. This one coming in from Bruce McCall Jr., and he wants to know when you might be doing the next cooking demonstration out there in beautiful Shillington, Pennsylvania.
Bruce McCall Jr., no kidding, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All the way out there.
My buddy Bruce. That's Huck.
That's right, Huck
anyway,
Jr.
That's Huck Jr. Anyway, you can let Bruce know that we cook almost every Saturday, and I'm going to be going away on vacation for a couple of weeks. Then when I get back, I'm gonna hit the demonstration thing pretty hard probably on Saturdays, and we may do some paid classes during the week. Basic barbecue stuff, and probably of course some pizza things and that type of thing. Maybe even do some sausage making ones. But there's demonstrations going on all the time. You can go on the website and just sign up for our little mailing list. We don't send a lot of junk out. And then you'll know every time we're doing something.
He is Fred Bernardo, owner of Fred's Music and BBQ in Shillington, Pennsylvania. Fred'sMusicandBBQ.com is the web address. And I always appreciate the conversation, Fred, about what's good and what's new in the store. And we'll look for you again soon.
Greg, thanks a lot, man.
All right,
Talk
take
to you
care.
Anytime.
There he is. It's Fred Bernardo. He might be maybe the second longest sponsor of the show, I think. So always appreciate catching up with Fred. And if you're ever, I don't know, I guess I technically don't know where Shillington, Pennsylvania is as far as the geographical location in Pennsylvania, but I certainly know that if you're out there then you need to, or I guess it's near reading from what I understand from insiders that are specific to the area. That's that's a place to go. I mean, there's not a lot of. Why does this keep doing this? There's my love. There's not a lot of places out there that mom and pop stuff that are out there like cooking every weekend. Reading, whatever. Give me a break. What do you think? I'm from Pennsylvania? I hate the Steelers, for crying out loud. Do you think I'm going to give any other city in Pennsylvania half respect? Forget about it. We come from Cleveland, baby.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Anything with Pennsylvania in it could mean Steelers, and quite honestly, we could be fist fighting by the end of that conversation. So yeah, go Eagles. Yeah, go home, go Eagles. All right, let's race back over to the hotline and forget about all of this. As we welcome into the show, newly crowned 2010 KCBS Team of the Year, friend of the show, the Wizard of Woz, Mike Wozniak. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine.
Mike, welcome back to the show, and congratulations, obviously, on the big honor that took place last weekend. Fresh off of getting those accolades, 2010 KCBS Team of the Year. You've been here before, but looking back on any number of seasons, how does this one stack up to some of the rest?
Well, it was longer than any season that we've competed before. I think we did 37 points paying contest, and then, of course, there was 3 invitationals, and then we did a couple, we did like a rib burn or 2 here or there. So it was like 40-something contests altogether. Long season. It was actually our best season ever. I mean, we won 11 contests, including the Jack. So it was our best year ever. I mean, we've never approached that before. I think 7 is the most we've ever won before in one year.
All right, so you get 11. I'm sure this could be a moot question considering what you just mentioned, but as you look back on all of the ones that you took last year, and 11 is a considerable amount, does one hold, or perhaps we could answer, this could be a two-pronged question. Holding the Jack aside for now, what other grand championship do you take particular pride in over the course of the 2010 season?
I think I'd say Washington, D.C. Is somewhere we never cooked before. And the fact that we did compete in our only Memphis and May style contest there on Sunday is probably our first and last. But we took second place in ribs in Memphis style. Never done it before. I had to do a lot of bullshitting. I'm pretty good at that. So we had 3 on-site judges come one at a time, and I gave them a pretty good line. Not all of it was true. Then the final judges came, and I laid the same line on them, and it turned out pretty well. We got beat, of course, by Melissa Cookston, who I'm not sure anybody can beat her at this time. She's doing really well.
So as you look at that kind of a competition, Mike, and certainly you've competed in the KCBS for a number of years and been very successful, obviously this year included, is there just, one that MBN style is just going to kind of be where it's at as far as popularity? Do you see that gaining in any type of popularity? And do you think it gets the respect that it deserves?
Well, it's different. I think the problem is I've talked. I'm actually I took the MBN judging class. It was actually Memphis and May style judging. I took it down in Memphis a few years back, and I remember talking to one of the head dudes, and I said, I think you would get a lot more like KCBS people, cross over and do some of these MBN contests if the first round was totally blind judging. And then you could reserve the on-site judging for finals, because it's really intimidating if you've never done it before, to have these people come and you have to give them the story. We had to cook so much product. I mean, all I did was ribs. I cooked 17 racks. I had 6 racks for my blind box. I had 6 racks for the on-site judges, and then I saved 5 racks for the finals. And so when the on-site judges would come, I would offer them, I'd take them to the pit, and I'd say, which one would you like? And I think most of them said, just you pick one out for me. But the blind boxes, you have to turn in a 2-bone section. And to get, I think I put 8 2-bone sections in there. You have to cook a lot of ribs to get those, because, when you start to cut, you actually have to start at a like a first and a fourth bone and cut because you want the two bones to have meat on both sides. So it takes a lot of product. To me, it's a lot more expensive. It's a lot more work. We had to go out and buy some nice chairs, a nice clean table. You know, our plastic tables have got a lot of wear on them, and they're dirty and greasy. Tablecloths. We had to do a lot of that stuff, and it was just kind of a pain in the butt.
So, I mean, obviously some added expense there, too, but as you kind of look into that kind of an event, is the payout worth it? I mean, can you win more during an MBN contest than you could a KCBS contest?
Right. Talking to Melissa, I mean, she was telling us about some of the contests where, she would go home with $30,000, and that's not the one in Memphis, the big one. So I think there is a lot of money in it, and it looks to me like there's, just very few people there at the top. Unlike on any given Saturday, just about anybody can win a Kansas City Barbecue Society contest. But it looks to me like there's just a few really outstanding teams at the top in the MBN. But yeah, there is a lot of money there, and I've talked it over with my wife. I said, because we won the Jack, we get an entry, although it's not a free entry or anything, to the Memphis contest this year, and we talked it over, and we may do it, although she's really reluctant. She doesn't like to do those things. It all depends on. Ronnie Cates supposedly going to have a big $175,000 contest out in Vegas, and it would be the week after Memphis in May, and it's just almost logistically impossible for us to get to do almost a whole week down in Memphis and then get home, and I have to turn around and drive the trailer out to Vegas. I'd have to leave like Tuesday, so it is something we may look into, and I don't know, but I know my wife, she's not real happy about doing those things.
Mike Wozniak joining us here, pitmaster of QOW, just recently crowned 2010 KCBS Team of the Year. So when you got back from the banquet this year, Mike, and again, it was just a couple days ago, what are some of your takeaways? Is it always a good time? Is it better some years than others? What do you think?
Well, you know what? I have to say this is probably we've been to a lot of banquets. I think we've been going since 2003. This may have been the best one so far as being organized. The girls in the office, I believe, are the ones that do all the setup at the hotel and everything, and they did a fantastic job. Mike Peters is a good friend of mine. He was the MC. He kept things rolling right along, and actually we are way ahead of schedule, and that's usually not the case. Usually we're way behind schedule on the banquet itself and getting the awards out and everything like that. They did run out of food again. They ran out in Philadelphia last year. My friend Big Johnson there, Scotty from Chicago, he didn't get any food last year in Philadelphia. Now this year he was at my table, and we were up front, so we got to eat first. But I know I think Robert from Habitual Smokers, he was on one of the last tables, and all the beef. I think they had these big, I think they call them beef clods or big like leg sections of cow. And by the time he got up there, they were gone, and so all he got was the bone. And he did take the bone, and it was almost phallic the way he was using it, to demonstrate that all he got was the bone. I'm not sure what he did with it. He may have taken it home with him. But, yeah, to run out 2 years in a row it's not called for. But I think the hotel underestimates that, we're all barbecue people. We eat meat. We're not these, their typical conventioneer, I guess you would say.
You're there to eat because you know how to eat well.
That's correct. And in fact, the night before, a bunch of us, including, do you know Big Mo Kaysen from Des Moines?
I've heard of him, yes.
Heard of him. He's a big man. Him and a bunch of our other friends, we went out to a Brazilian restaurant where they have the meat on skewers and they carve you a piece off. Well, it didn't take me long to figure out that they bring out the cheap cuts first. So what you got to do, you got to kind of pass those up and wait till they bring out the prime rib and the sirloin and fillets. And Big Mo's a big man. I actually out-ate him, so it was quite a day for me.
Now, you had mentioned Scotty Johnson here just a couple minutes ago, and I know there were some things that we needed to clear up. Last couple times you've been on, mysterious emails have been leaking in from the Windy City, kind of almost taking credit for your increase in chicken scores. And I know there's some things that we need to get out and kind of cleared out. So why don't you go ahead and just kind of lay it down.
All right. Scotty, he has sort of led people to believe that I took his class last February up in Westmont, which is near Chicago. Actually, I was a co-instructor, and I'm going to be a co-instructor again here in a couple of weeks. As I mentioned to you before, I think, or I mentioned to you in an email that the only class I ever took was Ray Lampe's, and that class I was in, there was quite a few really good cooks in it. Rod Gray, for one, and Darren Worth, and a few others that were really good cooks. But no, I did not take Scotty's class, no matter what he would lead you to believe. In fact, I'm of the opinion that Scotty's cooking has increased just from, me being up there and, giving some of my words of wisdom on my philosophy on cooking. So that's another view. Also, Scotty, he proclaims to be a Chicago Bears fan. And, this weekend we have a big game with the Packers. But, he may be a closet Packers fan. I'm not positive. But, we'll find out.
I believe those are fighting words. Shots coming over the bow of Scotty Johnson from my guest, Mike Wozniak from QOW. Mike, you mentioned Ray Lampe's class, and he was on a couple weeks ago and really did an outstanding, probably one of the longest After Dark segments that I had. We hit a lot of different items. And one of the things that I kind of wanted to readdress with you is, you're somebody out there that's winning consistent. You're out there now. Ray self-admittedly has kind of been out of competition more than he would like to be and hopes to get into it more. But as someone who's taken his class and kind of progressed over, the last 5, 6, 7 years, this kind of discussion about where flavor profile is right now, and everybody's using head country sauce and smoking guns rub or whatever it's called. Do you see that, or do you still think that there's kind of an emergence of new flavor profiles that are keeping the top teams where they need to be?
Well, most of the top teams won't tell you what they're doing, but yeah, smoking guns hot and blues hog and all that's still in vogue. I've always been of the opinion, and I tell this like when I help Scotty with the class, and I say, you know what, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, I don't know how you set yourself apart from everybody else. When the judges get 6 chickens and they're all rolled up thighs, they all have blues hog on them. I mean, what if you put yourself in the judges' seat? Well, how do you distinguish between these? I've always done something different. I mean, everybody knows I do some type of lollipop chicken, whatever that is. We make our own rubs. We make our own sauces. My wife does all of that. I came up with the recipes, and she makes it all now. The only commercial rub I buy is for our chicken, and it's something that's kind of off the wall. I always try to set myself apart. I try to do something different. I mean, a lot of beginning cooks, they say, well, what's this person? What are they doing? What are they doing? Well, why do you want to be like somebody else? I mean, if they're a top team, you want to try to emulate them, but in the long run, you're better off to do something different. And I think the judges are willing to take something that's a little bit different, a different profile, and reward you for it. I've always said if somebody, would put some really cooked gizzards in a box, and I was judging, I'd give them all 9 just for having the balls to do it. I love gizzards for one, and they're not illegal. It just says chicken. It doesn't say what part of a chicken. You could put beaks and feet in as far as I know, but yeah, I would give a guy 9s just for having the balls to put gizzards in there if they were cooked right.
So gizzards aside, I guess where the discussion would take place is people want to do as well as they can out of the gate, especially some of the teams that are just kind of getting into it. That's why they're taking these classes. They're seeing these flavor profiles come out, and I guess where I've always asked the teams that I guess made these flavor profiles in vogue is, do you want to start getting away from that because everybody's going to copy, and does getting away from it potentially A, reward you as, like you said, or B, does it potentially put you at a disadvantage now because you're going to be working on new flavors to introduce?
Okay, I guess I know where you're going with this. You don't want to get too far off in left field. We're like sweet sauce versus some kind of hot chipotle. Always err on the side of a sweeter sauce. And then you want the nuances within the sweet sauce range. I cooked one of the Vegas contests back in 2003, and there was a fellow cooking next to me, and I, for the life, can't remember the name of the team. And he let me taste his sauce, and it was just something, just burning hot chipotle. And I said, well, this is really good. But I said, what do you use it on? He goes, I'll use it on my chicken and ribs. And I go, not for a contest, right? He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, we're out here in the Southwest. They really love that kind of stuff. And I go, yeah, but these judges, I know a bunch of them. They're here from Iowa. They're from Tennessee. They're from, Kansas City. I said, they're not going to like that. And I think the guy got like second to last in ribs. And when I say you want to, your own profile a little bit different, I'm not, saying to be way off in left field. I mean, just something slightly different. I don't want to offend a judge. I mean, I never make stuff really peppery or real hot. Generally, there's a lot of women judges out there, and generally the women judges, I always talk to judges if I can, and generally they do not like stuff that's really hot and spicy. Sweet is usually pretty good. Brisket, we normally just try to make it taste beefy. I used sauce for a while, sweet sauce. We just try to use a beefy type broth on it. But you don't want to offend a judge, I guess would be the best advice I have. But as far as the flavor profiles, you don't want to vary too much from, what everybody else is doing, but I don't want to do exactly what they're doing either.
Mike Wozniak is our guest. Mike, quick question here because, as you're looking down the line of, who was in the top 5 this year, Kansas City Barbecue Society Team of the Year. Obviously, you took top honors. You had Rod Gray was there. Harry Sue from Slap Yo Daddy Barbecue was 3rd, I believe. Was Mike Davis was 4th. I mean, you had some of the best teams that have seen a lot of success actually holding Harry off since he's kind of new. But, a lot of the great teams were right there, top 5 again this year. Was it a battle that you were looking forward to this year, and were you happy to kind of see it taper off, not going into the last competition as it did last year?
Absolutely. I mean, we did not want to have to, after driving 45,000 miles throughout the season, I did not want to have to go out to, Buckeye, Arizona, or Scottsdale, Arizona, or California, for that matter, for the New Year's Day contest. Not that those are bad contests or anything. It's just that, we're done driving. I don't like to borrow equipment and, use somebody else's equipment. I want to use my equipment, so I normally would take my stuff. But getting back to the beginning of the season, it was not our intention to go for Team of the Year. And I don't believe that you can start out the season, saying, well, this year is the year we're going to be Team of the Year. You just have to see how it develops. At the beginning of the season, our only sights realistically were set on winning the Kingsford Challenge, the Kingsford Points Chase, I guess they called it, and then possibly, if we could, be Pork Team of the Year. We had really started doing well the last part of the season in 2009. I think we had 9 top 10 finishes with a couple first in pork, and we were starting to hit pretty well in it. So, and the reason we wanted to win pork is we already won the other 3 meat categories. We'd won chicken twice, we'd won ribs and brisket once, and so it kind of completes the set. And that one really did come down towards the end. Donnie Teal and Parrott had both had jumped ahead of us for a while, and then I think our second to last contest of the season down in Chesterfield, Missouri, we got a second, and then we got first there, and we were second down in Plant City, Florida, which jumped us ahead of Donnie Teal, who's a fantastic pork cook, and we end up winning Team of the Year, and we get to go to the butt to butt, I guess, next year because of that. But as far as saying, well, this is the year we were going to be Team of the Year, we had no idea. I mean, once June came around, we had like 5 wins. Then we started looking at the calendar and say, okay, to hold on to this, we got to skip small contests. We have to go to big contests because we need the bonus points. And Rod Gray was there, right till the end.
Right.
And to defend Rod, once he realized that mathematically it was going to be tough for him to catch us, he did stop cooking. So we did go on and to try to win the pork. So we did cook a few more contests than him at the end of the year.
I'd alluded to this particular cook here just a couple minutes ago, and that would be Harry Sue from Slap Yo Daddy Barbecue. I mean, here's a guy that is out on the West Coast, obviously, got a lot of recognition there in the first season of Barbecue Pitmasters. Is it possible that a West Coast team can actually win KCBS Team of the Year? Their West Coast guys are kind of more known for their flamboyant flavor profiles, but I guess, considering the amount of time, effort, and travel that he put into this past season, maybe if there was, some more bigger contests out there, a couple other people might be looking over their shoulders.
Several of us were talking about this. If you look at Harry's record, he really is the king of California. He of the 7 KCBS wins he had in 2010, I think 6 of them were in California, and 1 of them was in Arizona. And looking at the schedule, it looks like California is going to have twice as many contests next year. realistically, if he keeps cooking the way he has done in the past, and he's able to do that with all these extra contests in California, I mean, he could win Team of the Year and hardly have to leave his home state. And I mean, it's not a small state either. I mean, that's driving from one end of California to the other. That's quite a bit of miles. So I think it's possible. I don't know if that'll happen. They don't have a tremendous amount of big contests, but they have a fair number of them.
All right, some of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about tonight, Mike, and we're talking with Mike Wozniak from QOW, the new KCBS Team of the Year for 2010. Some of this was brought up, it might have even been last year, was this whole pork collar or pork parting rule. I know you have some thoughts on this, so why don't you lay it down for us?
Okay, well, there's two separate things there. Pork collar is a specific cut of meat that's being sold by some of the high-end places, meat processors. It's a neck roast, basically. There's one on each side of the neck. And normally, and I've talked to butchers. In fact, Dave Buska from Butcher's Barbecue, he's a butcher. And, and I knew the answer, so I wanted him to verify it. But when they do the primal cuts, when they break a pig down, they break it down into two shoulders, the two hams. You have the loin section, which is the whole loin, with the ribs attached, and then you cut it from there. And then usually that neck they make small roasts out of it, or a lot of it gets ground up into sausage. What's happening is there's been people. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's doing this, but I mean, if you look at some of the advertisements, they're saying this neck roast is being used by barbecue teams. Well, I don't know of any of the sanctioning bodies that allow this. If you read the KCBS rules, and I see this a lot on the forum. People they'll get off on a tangent, and if you start at the rules, read what the rule says. It says pork is defined as a whole shoulder, a picnic, or a butt. A picnic and a butt being, the whole shoulder cut in half, basically. So it's possible that if, a specialty cut is done and you leave this pork collar attached to the shoulder, you could argue and say, well, it's part of the shoulder. But the problem is it's just like, let's take a spare rib. If you can buy a whole spare rib and it's got the cartilage and the breastplate attached, when the butcher takes that to make it into a St. Louis cut, he takes a meat saw and he cuts that off. It's now a rib tip, and rib tips are not legal in KCBS. Only loin backs and spares are. So when the butcher cuts something off and it's no longer attached, he changes the nature of it, and it has a specific name.
Right.
So rib tips are illegal, and it's the same with this pork collar. Even if it was attached, once you cut it off and it becomes a collar roast, it's no longer legal because it's not one of the three defined meats. And so that my buddy Parrott had said, he goes, at one time, the whole damn thing was connected. I'd like to turn in bacon. I said, well, it was connected. Well, it's illegal. And there's been calls, well, let's have a definition and say pork collar is illegal. Well, you don't want to have a rule and have to say this is illegal, this is illegal, this is illegal. You spell out the items that you want to be turned in, and you really can leave it at that. But it's something I think that the reps and the KCBS board are going to have to look at and just, I don't know what the solution is if people are doing this. Most of the roasts are littler than 5 pounds, and we do have a 5-pound rule, and that gets to the parting. But anyway, I think it's something they need to look at. In my mind, the simplest way to solve this is to do a 10 o'clock, I guess an inspection of the pit. Just 10 o'clock when the reps walk around, they show us the clock, so we have the correct time. Just say, can we look in your pit, and just see what's on there. I think that would solve a lot of it. It would just scare people, and they would maybe not do some things that are, kind of unethical.
If we get, before we get into the parting, Mike, just for my own education, is the pork collar something that's going to cook up just like a butt or a picnic would?
Well, I think the reason it cooks up so well and it has a lot of flavor, and this is the thing, it is a nice cut of meat. It's surrounded by a lot of fat. If you look at a pig's neck, I mean, it's just there's a lot of fat right in that area.
Yep.
So when you cook it, you've got this fat rendering down through the muscle. It's almost like you're doing a confit, or you're cooking the meat right in a fat. And we've done some of that before. I've cooked meat just in lard, and it does turn out really good. I think that's the effect that you have there. And so you're getting this really fantastic meat. It's real tender. It's real sweet. And I think you turn it in. I think you get rewarded for it. But there again, that's really not called for in KCBS. And it won't be. I mean, the way I understand it, even they did have a rules meeting, but any rules changes will have to wait till the beginning of 2012. So we're stuck with these rules that we have this year. I mean, I consider them, fine. I see no problem with any of the rules that we have this year, but they're not going to get changed till 2012. And there's been a lot of controversy about the parting rule, about the 5-pound rule. And if you want to get into that now, I'll discuss that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My understanding is this is before my time. I've been doing this, we're starting our 11th year. Somewhere 12, 13, 14 years ago, there was a team, and they would buy like a case of butts, and they would just cut, I'm not sure if it's a money muscle or there's kind of a leaner muscle that lays on top of the blade bone on a butt. And they would just cut these off and just grill them off. And, the hell with the rest of the butt. I mean, if you don't care about the money or anything, there's some people that are out there are pretty well off and they don't care. They just want to win. And KCBS looked at it and said, well, you're basically grilling some pork off. It's not really barbecue as we define it. And so they made the rule. They said, you got to cook at least a 5-pound chunk. And that's where that came from. Now, Memphis in May is where the money muscle came from, because they do the on-site presentation. They say, here, let me give you a piece of this money muscle, and you give it to the on-site judge, and it's absolutely, to me, it's the most fabulous piece of meat on a pig.
Yep.
So anyway, now when the money muscle became popular in KCBS, then a lot of people, what they want to do, they want to fillet this out. And I'll tell you, Ray taught us this back years ago, how to fillet a butt out. But we would fillet the whole butt out, so it would all be fairly even and cook at about the same time. And so a lot of cooks, they want to take the money muscle and kind of fillet it out on its own, and then it'll get done first, so they want to take it off, set it aside, cook the rest of the butt so they can pull it, and then put the money muscle back on, heat it, set the sauce, and they come afoul of the parting rule. Well, we do the money muscle. In fact, I was very successful with it this year, and we leave ours attached. And the reason is because I fillet it out, and the whole thing is at about the same thickness throughout. It works out real well for us. And we did get in trouble one time. Some judges questioned our muscle, and the reps came to me, and I said, well, this is how I do it. I explained it to them. After that, I took 8x10 glossies, and I have them with me. I said, look, here they are. And if I get a rep I'm not familiar with, I show them. I said, this is what I do with pork. I said, if anybody has a question, you come get these pictures. You can take it and show the judges. And it shows exactly how I do it. It shows that it's attached. And I tell the reps that you can come anytime, look at my pit, and that muscle will be attached until we take it in after ribs, and I pull it off and slice it.
Now, when you're cooking, for the money muscle turn-in, is that butt only going to be for a money muscle, or are you going to be using other parts of it as well?
Generally, I like to get my pulled meat from a picnic. It's there's longer strands. Those muscles get used more. It's sweeter meat. You have to cook it a little longer. But there's been times where we have to get our pulled off of the butts, and ours is fine. Because of the way I cook it, it all gets done about the same time. The money muscle and the meat around the blade bone and everything gets done about the same time.
And I guess the easiest way to define where the money muscle is, if you're familiar with a butt, you have the side, obviously, that has the bone end, and then so the opposite side of that running up and down is the money muscle. Yeah,
it's kind of, if you look at it, it's got striations through it, fat striations. And, I don't know if it's so much of a muscle. It looks to me more it's like a spongy tissue.
Right.
And the thing about it is, and we learned this the hard way, we got slammed a couple of times, it really will absorb smoke. And if you leave it like just hanging out there and really give it some smoke, it gets bitter. So we actually end up cooking ours at the bottom of our pit. I cook at a low temperature at the bottom of the pit, and it doesn't get as much smoke down there. And I start it with the fat cap up, protecting everything, and it turns out a lot better that way. But yeah, because it's so spongy, it really absorbs smoke, and boy, you can really screw it up quickly if you put the wood to it. I don't burn wood. I burn just pure charcoal, and I think everything burns a lot cleaner that way. The guys that burn wood with the Jambos, I talked to Tuffy this weekend, and he says he has to wrap his pork in foil, and we've gotten away from that. I try not to wrap anything. The only thing we're still wrapping is brisket, and I'm trying to work out a method where I don't have to do that.
Just something you don't like doing?
What's that?
It's just something you don't like, the quality of the product that's coming out of the wrap?
Well, exactly. And I'll tell you, and we won ribs one year, wrapping them, but it's just, you're not eating a rib, you're eating it like a stick of candy. All the meat flavor's kind of gone. You know, we were dumping parquet, and we were dumping sugar and tiger sauce. I think that's pretty standard. And then the pork, we would wrap it, and brisket. Brisket, you're basically steaming it, and you can get it down where it pulls just perfectly when you do the slices, but you're taking a lot of the beef flavor away. We quit wrapping pork at the end of the year, and I thought our pork was fabulous. The brisket, though, I've not been able to figure out the exact timing sequence, and you know, you gotta have it in there for a certain time to break that collagen down. And I think you discussed this with Ray not too long ago. You know, collagen to me is where the flavor is. Fat has flavor in it, but collagen, which is connective tissue, has even more flavor. So the brisket, it's going to be a little harder for me to figure out some kind of method to cook it without wrapping it. I think it can be done, though.
Now, I know in previous conversation we had talked about brisket, of course, and one of the things that really seemed to hook up on as far as fads were concerned this year in competition was this Wagyu beef. And at that point, you said you weren't really getting into it. Are you still staying away from it, or is it something you're going to start to dabble in a little bit?
Well, we think we won brisket 4 times this past year, which is not bad, but it was our weakest category, so it may be something we have to look at. I think we're going to try to get, like prime grade Angus and see how that goes. If we have to go to Wagyu, there again, you have to have it shipped in. Most of the teams just cook one, and I guess, that's fine as long as it's trimmed well. I mean, I don't know how many times we've gotten brisket and you got a big gash in there, and then one of them's no good, so you have to rely on your second brisket. But hopefully if you're paying $100 for a brisket, that there's no big gouges in it. But anyway, we may have to do that. As far as I know, we're going to start out here doing a few contests, and I will still be using choice grade or Angus if I can get it, but I'm not going with the Wagyu yet. I really want to work on a system where I can cook brisket without wrapping it, and I think that'll keep that nice beefy flavor in it, and I may be rewarded for it.
Do you cook hot and fast? Are you out of traditional barbecue temperatures when you're at the competition?
I cook everything hot and fast except pork. Luckily, I don't know if you're familiar with the Peoria Custom Cooker, but it's got 2 levels, and you've got actually 3 smokestacks. The smokestacks at different levels allow you to bring the heat out at different levels, so you can create hot spots and cold spots. So I can cook my brisket basically like 325 degrees, and at the other end, down on the lower level, I can have pork down there. It's still sitting there about 210, and it works out real well. I don't need 2 cookers that way. And the pork turns out fine. The brisket turns out fine.
And that's like a traditional offset style cooker, right?
Somewhat. It's the firebox design is kind of unique. The firebox looks huge, but actually it's fairly small. It's all insulated. You actually have a hot oven on the back side of the fire. The part that feeds into the cook chamber, and then the back side of the going the opposite direction, it's kind of a hot little oven that stays about 450 degrees. We cook prime rib in there, pork loin, cook pizzas, steaks all the time. We start our briskets out in there sometimes, put a nice little kind of crust on them, kind of seal everything in there. But I cook really hot, everything. Chicken, ribs, I cook over 300 degrees. And the only thing is pork, and it just seems that pork turns out better when you cook at that low temperature.
When you're using all charcoal, I would imagine you're using like lump?
Well, I use lump, except at night when I go to bed. I use briquettes. Now, when we did the Kingsford series, we used their competition, which is doesn't have fillers in it. It's all hardwood. It's a little different to cook with, but you don't get, I have to anticipate when I need to raise my heat and because with lump you can get the temperature up a lot quicker. But we were successful using briquettes. But at night when I go to bed, I fill the whole the firebox up with briquettes, and I get about a 7-hour burn out of it.
Is that kind of a cooker very efficient because of the insulated cook box and all that stuff?
Oh, it's extremely efficient. For a whole cook, I'll start it up about 3 in the afternoon, and I just let it go out probably about 1 the next afternoon, And I think I normally burn, depending on the outside, the ambient temperature, I'll go through 35 to 40 pounds of charcoal, and that's it. That's not a lot.
And then you're not having to chase ass, for wood and sticks all over the place either.
No. Well, we live on a farm. I got plenty of wood, but I prefer to use it in our fireplace.
Yeah, well, plus, with the, at least out here in Cleveland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, you had that emerald ash borer bug thing, so teams were not allowed to bring wood out of county, let alone out of state, so that was definitely putting a hamper on people, so just another reason why charcoal's kind of a nice way to go. And do you have any thoughts on pellet cookers?
I've never used one. My friends have. I'm not sure they have anything against it. I know Parrot he had trouble with them in the middle of the night, and it was always related to voltage variations. When you're at a cook-off and it's summer and everybody's using air conditioners, and in the morning they're plugging coffee pots in and stuff, your voltage just can go up and down, 20, 30 volts. People ruin air conditioners. And the pellet cookers, everybody that uses them, Scotty, I know he's really successful. He uses a generator, so he doesn't have that problem. And I think Parrot had eventually started doing that also. But I guess it was tearing the electronic boards up when the voltage would fluctuate. But other than that, nobody really has any trouble with them, and they do cook extremely well. And one thing you'll notice, they don't put out a lot of smoke, and which is what I try to impress when we help Scotty with these classes and stuff. I don't know why we ended up calling them smokers. It's really a misnomer. And it's probably bad advice when people think, well, how much smoke do you put to it? They're really cookers. They're not smokers. Smoke is just a byproduct of it. And smoke gives you a nice flavor if you don't use too much of it. But pellet cookers, boy, they don't put a lot of smoke. A nice clean flavor. Same with the Jambos. If you ever watch those guys, they only have a little bit of smoke come out of the smokestack right at first when they're getting them lit up. But once they get them going and the log's burning clean, they burn extremely clean. Same way with my cooker. It burns extremely clean. You never see smoke coming out of it.
So as you look into this coming year, you said you're going to start out, more local there with some competitions. Do you have any wants or any motivation to go ahead and immediately start thinking about repeating? I mean, obviously this is a very long competition year. It's basically 12 months almost. Would you like to see yourself doing it again as a repeat, or is that something you're really not even looking into?
Well, we're not really thinking about repeating as Team of the Year. Again, if we get in a situation where we're leading and it's halfway through the season or something, then we will start looking at different competitions, because the bonus point system really is the tiebreaker. So you got to do bigger contests and you've got to win a few of those. Really, we're not even sure what we're doing this year. Kingsford, I'm supposed to be on a conference call with them Friday. I think Rod and I are going to talk to them, and they're actually adding a bunch more contests. I think they're going to have like 22 or more. And they want to know, like, if the scoring system they used last year, if that was fine or they should change it. And, really, Beth and I started out at the beginning of the season, and we just decided we'd do them all and hammer it, to win the money before anybody else kind of figured out what was going on. And so we kind of screwed it up for everybody else. And but I'm not sure that it really needs to be changed the way they did the scoring system, because we just had such a phenomenal year that, nobody was going to catch us on that, especially since we did every contest, and we did well at most of them. Tyson is purportedly going to have some kind of competitions this year, and I guess I would suppose you have to use Tyson meats, probably chicken. I'm not sure of any specifics on that. And then you've probably heard of the Sam's Club series, and what I understand that's going to be is there's going to be 5 regions through the United States. And they're going to have contests at some Sam's Clubs in these regions. And then the winners of those contests in each region will go to like a semifinal and the winners out of that will go to a final. And they have, I think the number they threw around was $400,000 in prize money, which was quite a bit. So we don't know what we're going to do because we don't have a schedule for any of these yet. We would like to see the Kingsford schedule. We'd like to see the Sam schedule. And, of course, the Sam's thing isn't something where you can just go cook them all, because if they have the semis on the same day throughout the country, even if you won contests in other regions, you'd have to pick which one of the semis you were going to go to. So that's just something, maybe if you do qualify, you just go as far as you can with it. So the Kingsford is the one we'd like to go after, but we don't have specifics on it yet. No, we're just going to cook and see what happens. We're kind of holding off and signing up for any contests right now. We're signed up for 5 or 6 of the early ones, and we'll go from there.
Mike Wozniak, pitmaster of QOW, joining us here on the show. Mike, one last question here before I let you go tonight. Obviously, there was new elections for KCBS Board of Directors. Ray Lampe had some pretty poignant comments as far as how he feels it's operating. What are your thoughts about KCBS and how it's operating? And I mean, is it good? Are there points that need to be changed? Where do you think it's at?
Well, Ray would know more about it than I would because he was on the board. But what I gather is there's just a lot of personality conflicts. I've been around attorneys and stuff a lot, and I've watched when they go and do a deposition, and they're just vehemently arguing their case, and they're arguing, they're fighting. It looks like they're really pissed off at one another. Yet they walk out in the hall and they're talking about, well, hey, did you see the Bulls game last night? They're buying each other a cup of coffee. And when they're in the courtroom, they're in there defending their client or supporting his cause as best they can, because that's what they're getting paid for. And I think sometimes that the KCBS board, they get this mode where they take everything personal. And, you can't have a board that's in 100% agreement on everything, because if you start to go down the wrong track, then there's no one there to stop you.
Right.
You need people that are willing to say, no, I think we need to do it this way, and we need to argue. But at the same time, they're in their mind, what they're saying is what they think should be good for KCBS, and the other people are saying the same thing. And when they start to take things personal, then nothing gets done. And I think that's at the point they're at now, that everybody's taking things personal. They take sides. You've got this faction against this faction, and I think it's hurting. Now we have a new board coming in. Whether that will change anything or not, I don't know. I try to stay out of all the politics. I just want to cook and not be, tied down with any of this crap that goes on.
I mean, does their bickering ultimately affect you guys, or is it really you're kind of insulated and a little bit more farther removed?
Well, it can affect us if they come up with something that's off the wall. I mean, there was a lot of talk on the forum about changing the way they do the team of the year calculations. In fact, there was a lot of arguments, and some of it's legitimate. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I can't do 30 contests a year. And that's true. There's a lot of people that can't. But there was 400 teams that did 10 or more. 10 is the minimum. They count your top 10. And a lot of teams don't even do that many. And I mean, realistically, can you beat a team of the year if you're only cooking 5 or 6 contests? I don't know. There was talk, well, let's have a team of the year that is like the 5 and under team of the year. Well, I don't know if you can do that either. Does that make sense? Because you'd have a bunch of them that would be tied, and then they would have to do more contests to break the ties. Logistically, it's just not possible. And then there was some talk. Well, let's do where we calculate team of the year using the overall score sheets. And in just a few minutes, I went and looked at the scores from 2010 and found that there are some geographical biases. The Northeast coast and then California generally have lower scoring contests. I don't know the reason for that, but it's there. The 2 lower scoring contests of the year were out in California. All the big scoring contests where it scored 700 or more were out in the center of the country: Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kansas, places like that. Well, if you would win a bunch of contests in California and they were low scoring under that method, you'd just be screwed, because your score of like 611 won one of the contests out there. if you would take that and look at a 6-11 that last year at Little Rock, where there was 190 teams, or I believe it was 190. No, maybe it was 230. I'm sorry. That would have put you like 150th or something like that. It just doesn't work. I know now Vince from Rhythm and Cue, he said, well, let's do it like baseball, like your average, your number of wins over the number of contests you cooked. And I thought, that's not a bad idea. But then again, how do you account for winning a contest where there's 50 teams or a contest where there's 10 teams?
Right.
You have to have some kind of multiple, and then it starts to get complicated, because then what's fair and what's not fair, I don't know. So I think what they're doing right now is good. And, the worst thing you can do is get in there and just start, screwing things around just to be screwing around with them. Just leave it alone. And if a problem presents itself, then maybe you need to look into changing it. But don't be changing things for the sake of changing them. And that's what scares me about, the board. You just don't want them to do that.
Mike, what's the first competition you guys are going to be competing in this year?
That would be Lakeland. We always do Lakeland in a couple weeks down in Florida. It's a great contest. Now, that's provided I can get down there. The weather has been bad lately. Both of the routes, if I would have had to go there a couple weeks ago, both of the routes would have been closed, either going through Birmingham or going through Atlanta. But I suppose it's melting off here. But I'm about to leave and go down there in, next Wednesday, I suppose.
Wow, so soon enough. And one more question here before I let you go. This is from the butcher himself, Dave Bosca, asking me to ask you, is it greener under his wiener? What the hell does that mean? I feel like I should be arrested.
I did I ever talk to you about, we got a wreck on Interstate 70 coming in through Colorado.
Yeah, lost a trailer, right?
Yeah, because of a wiener dog.
Oh.
Well, anyway, so we've taken a lot of ribbing the last few months over this, and Chris Peters, Mike Peters' wife, and my wife were shopping, and they got me a T-shirt. It's a picture of a wiener dog on the grass, and then it says, the grass is greener under my wiener. Well, then Parrot had found the same picture on a rug, and we ended up giving it to Mike Peters when he was doing the MC thing, and so he held that up so everybody could see it. And that's the wiener dog thing. It's gonna be a while before we live that down.
Hey, I know we had talked about the Washington, D.C. contest earlier in the interview. Do you plan on going back there to try and defend a little bit?
I think we might. I've got the entry form. Like I said, I'm not going to send it until we see what some of these other series are doing. They did change it. I know they kind of pissed the Memphis and May people off. They're actually dropping the Memphis and May. It's all going to be all KCBS.
Uh-oh.
And what they're going to do, we always get there on Friday night. You can check in at 10 o'clock on Friday. Normally, I think we started last year, I think we start training at like 6 p.m. the next day. What we're going to do this year is we're going to turn in chicken and brisket on Saturday. And then Sunday, we turn in ribs and pork. And then the two high, or the high score from the two combined pork and ribs will be the national pork champion, according to their contest. So they just completely kicked the MBN people out.
Wow, there you go. All right, this is Mike Wozniak from QOW, and they are currently the new 2010 KCBS Team of the Year. Mike, always appreciate the visit. I know you're very busy. Thanks for coming on tonight. Continued success.
All right, thanks. We'll see you next time.
All right, take care, Mike. There he is. It's QOW, baby. Team of the Year, carrying roughly 45 minutes or so here on the show. So hopefully you enjoyed that, because I sure did. Mike, very insightful, very easy to talk to, and giving out lots of great info and some great insight on what was a very successful year for him this past year, things that he's looking to get into this year. Very non-committal at the moment. Lots of big things happening. A lot of big sponsors stepping up, offering up some big cash-ish. So we'll see how it unfolds. My people on the vocal side of things, thanks for holding it down. Thanks for watching and listening. People on the radio side, what's up? Thank you for tuning in. We'll go back over the guests real quick. It was Brad Barrett around 9:14 earlier this evening. Grillgreat.com. Check it out. Hook up with some. Let me know. Buy some. Let me know how it works out for you. Be anxious to hear your review. Also, we had Scott Roberts from scottrobertsweb.com doing his top 5 barbecue sauces and barbecue rubs from 2010. Very insightful. We had We had Fred Bernardo of Fred's Music and BBQ.com. Top of this hour, talking about what's new in the world of online, offline retail in the barbecue, grilling, pizza making, sausage and jerky. Fred's Music and BBQ.com. Also, Mike Wozniak from QA, 2010 KCBS Team of the Year, breaking it down. Jam-packed show. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you back here next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe. Good night now.